Hi, this is Jordan Ramirez, and you are tuning in to a brand new episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. And today we have a special guest. He is the host of his own podcast series. Please welcome Brody Otway. It's good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I host a podcast called Fandoms. We talk to people every episode about whatever they're a fan of and how they got into it and all that fun stuff. Doing an episode on Pokemon soon, so it's pretty convenient that you asked me to do this now.
Okay. All right. So the movie that he has selected, one of the films that he has selected that we're going to be talking about today is Pokemon the First Movie, released in the United States in 1999. And for the American voice cast, we have Rachel Lillis, Veronica Taylor, Ikue Otani, Eric Stewart, Philip Bartlett. And this film was directed by Kunihiko Yuyama. So why did you pick this film?
Um, I just kind of thought off the top of my head, what would I want to talk about other than maybe Ghostbusters or Back to the Future? And
Hmm.
this just was the first thing that popped into my head. I vividly remember going to see it on my brother's birthday one year as a kid, and they gave out the promo cards at the theater, and my brother got the Mewtwo card, and I got a Pikachu card, and I was so butthurt about it. And the whole movie, I was so focused more on the crappy card that I got than I was the actual movie that I think the next time I watched it, I was like, I don't remember half of this stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, I because I don't know if so I grew up in like that same era too, because the way I remembered it, if you were growing up in the States, was besides the fact that if when Pokemon first aired on Kids WB, which was the main network that basically broadcasted the show, it was distributed by this company called 4Kids Entertainment. Now, 4Kids
Yes.
Entertainment, whether you like them or
Very
not,
infamous.
yeah, it was an infamous company that was known for botching animated shows from Japan and localizing them. And it was so fucking infamous for not only trying to Americanize the names and locations, but also trying to put like American things onto these Japanese programs, which was one of the infamous things about this company.
Okay, it's not Pokemon, but have you ever heard the One Piece intro that they did for the
Uh,
show One Piece?
I
It
have
is
heard.
a pirate themed rap, and it is the best thing 4Kids has ever done.
Okay.
It is gloriously bad. Like it is so bad it's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember that. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between the 4Kids version of this film and the Japanese language version. Now, the big thing that the film was controversial or infamous for many Pokemon fans as well as critics is the plot. And the plot is so different in this film versus the Japanese language film. In the Americanized version, he was basically depicted as a basically an emotionless tyrant. That's the Mewtwo character. And in the original Japanese language version, he was portrayed more sympathetically, even though he was treated as a villain. So that's one of the things that was infamous about it. So another thing that was infamous about it was in the Americanized version, and I had to rewatch it. I had to rewatch the Americanized version. There were a lot of things that they changed, not only just with that, but I don't know if you remembered in the opening of the film, I remembered seeing it on VHS or maybe when it was in theaters. There was this intro where Team Rocket was basically in the jungle and they basically had to retrieve this it was like a fossil of Mew, and they had this whole introduction about trying to do this clone replication. And then we get this strange introduction after that, after the credits, where it's supposed to be like the whole Pokemon, like narration, like the life is a mystery and the Pokemon thing. That wasn't in the original Japanese language version because it was
Nope.
meant to be from the perspective of Mewtwo. Now, I think in their commentary track, for those who have never seen it, there's an audio commentary track that doesn't exist in the 2016 re-release. it does feature one of the Four Kids executives talk or producers saying that the reason why they had to add this narration was because they thought kids wouldn't understand it, or they're trying to make the parents understand the world of Pokemon, even though there was a short film that preceded it, which is sort of repetitive and it's almost irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah, and they changed the whole intro from the Japanese one where there's the whole preamble with Mewtwo and the little girl and
Mm-hmm.
the clone of one of the scientist's daughters, which is like really dark, and I can understand why they took it out of the American version because
Mm-hmm.
I think with the issues Pokemon already had back then with like a lot of the church groups being against it and stuff like that, I
Mm-hmm.
think if you had dealing with a little cloned girl's mortality and self-identity, you might have a little bit more of a barrier into that
Yeah.
market there, and a lot more parents maybe taking their kids out because I mean this movie gets surprisingly deep compared to the anime that precedes it, especially towards the end with Mewtwo's outlook on life.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do remember about this because the Japanese version was much more complex and it dealt with mature themes. And in this one, they just shit canned it and they made it simplified as good versus evil, which I thought it sort of defeated the purpose of what the creators of the original Japanese language version had intended. But for the American producers, for kids, they just said, oh, kids wouldn't understand this. They don't know anything, they don't know shit about this whole existentialism crisis and life and so on and so forth. So we're just going to simplify it into the good versus evil, and that's what kids wanted. So they were looking at it from a economic or marketing perspective rather than an artistic perspective, which is why I imagine was one of the reasons why they had to make that infamous change.
Yeah, it definitely makes Mewtwo's heel turn at the end to be becoming going from villain to not villain, like to a good guy, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more abrupt in the English one
Mm-hmm.
because like it's there isn't that a lot of that gray area that he sits in for most of the original dub of the Japanese. And then it also makes the line in the English one towards the end when he's like, it's not the circumstances of one's birth that determines, it's whatever. And like it makes that line feel a little bit more clunky in the English one.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's so clunky. And the other thing that I think they fucked up on the American one was there's a line where I think it's the other characters who were introduced, where they said, where they witnessed all the Pokemon, the clones and the originals fighting each other, and they said fighting is useless. Why should they fight with each other? Uh, and for me, it's like, isn't that part of what makes the Pokemon franchise basically what it is, that they all fight in
That's
battles?
literally what they do. They
Yeah.
like, oh, it's ridiculous. And then I love some of the mistakes that are in the English one as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
the one guy refers to his whole team as water types, and he's clearly got, I think it's a ground type on his team. I forget what
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon exactly. No, it's an
Yeah.
Ekans, I think.
Yes.
But he's yeah, and there's just like there's one part where Team Rocket's naming Pokemon coming out of the machine, and I'm pretty sure they say the completely wrong Pokemon that shows up.
I think they did. And also the other thing that I noticed, I never mentioned this on the show, but I watched, there is on the archive.org website, there is the original Japanese language version that somebody uploaded from a laser disc, I think back in the late 90s when laser discs were still
Oh God,
cool.
laser discs, yeah.
Yes, and this is something that maybe fans may not recognize. This is minor. In the Americanized version, they added CG for the clouds, the doors, and also for the battle. In the original version, it's all 2D animation, so you won't notice it, but it's minor. And the other change from the Japanese version to the American version is the score. The score is another big difference between the two.
Yeah, Digimon did that too, and
Hmm.
I think Pokemon handled it a little bit better than them, but
Hmm.
I uh I really really think there is one thing that does there's one line in the English dub version that is better than maybe any line in the Japanese one. It
Okay.
is when they're on the boat with Team Rocket and they're dressed as Vikings and they're rowing.
Mm-hmm.
And Ash says, I thought Vikings didn't exist anymore or something." And one of them says that, and then they go, "No, they mostly just live in Minnesota."
Yes,
And that line kills me every time.
yeah, they're known for trying to add in a lot of American humor into the dubs very well. But yeah, this is a film that either people would love this movie or they hate it because of what Four Kids had done to basically butcher the film's original message, which I totally understand is why this film was so infamous. I don't know if they did the same thing for the second film or the third film when they were brought over to the United States. I think they might have done so. But when I try to watch the Japanese language version for this movie and also to watch the American version, I know this feels like such a long time ago, but uh, there were a lot of songs that they added from like the big whatever pop groups or singers that were popular in the States. And when I look at them, to me, I feel like they feel so outdated now when I see them now because it doesn't feel like it fits in the purpose with the Japanese language version. It just it's like a memory I wish I forget for me, basically.
Yeah, I agree. There was something back then and where these movies that they were bringing over, whether it was Four Kids or any other studio with these anime movies, they just threw random pop music in as the soundtrack, like Digimon using Smash Mouth and
Hmm.
like stuff like that, and it just feels so out of place when you go back now and watch it, as
Hmm.
where when you watch the Japanese versions, the scores are timeless.
It is. It feels so timeless and it doesn't feel dated. That's the one thing I liked about the Japanese language version. And I also loved its
Yeah.
complex themes. And I also loved the voice acting. Not that I'm against the voice actors in the States. It's just that I think it was the story that for me just felt, as you said, it was clunky. It just didn't feel right. And it completely defeated the purpose of the franchise. So yeah.
And there's there's something about like the guy playing Mewtwo is
Hmm.
delivering such a better performance than every other person in the movie that it
Hmm.
feels a little bit off. Like he is so perfectly cast in his role, and then you
Hmm.
have that early 2000s dubbing from everyone else that
Hmm.
it feels a little bit off to me. I noticed that a lot when I was rewatching it with my daughter.
Hmm.
We watched both the original one and then the CGI remake version, and
Uh,
I was surprised how much like it's like one for one, and I really don't understand why they made that CGI version. It's I watching it the whole time I was like, I don't see the purpose for this existing.
yeah. Hmm. But yeah, so this is so we covered a few of the differences between the American version, which I used to remember Four Kids. Four Kids was, as we said before, they were famous or infamous for their dubbing, their localization, because I remember growing up in the early 2000s when Kids WB used to broadcast some of their shows. There was a series called Card Captors. I think they did that one back in
Yeah.
the early 2000s. And
Did
I
they?
watched
I wasn't aware.
yeah, I remembered I watched the original Japanese language version called which was under its original title Card Captor Sakura. And then I think when they did the dubbed version, what I read was it was infamous because some of the episodes that were not in that were not in the American version were left out. So you had like characters who just appeared out of nowhere, and then characters who mentioned previous events, and you're like, how did they know this if it was not shown in the episode that wasn't shown in the States? And then it basically left a lot of plot holes. It left a lot of like characters who show up for no reason. So there were a lot of those shows like that when they came to the States that when you watch the original and in the Japanese language version, it does make sense when you watch the entire series. But when it's the dubbed version, it's like they take out the episodes I guess due to cultural differences, because in the United States, if there's anything that is that they think is sacrilegious or bloody or violent or anything sexual or anything that's against what 4Kids stands for, they usually pull it out or they have to heavily edit it or censor it, which is what I think was one of the companies that made was one of the reasons why it was so infamous in the 90s and early 2000s.
And now a message from Jordan Ramirez for Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez.
I want to take a break from this episode to thank my listeners/viewers who watch the videos on my YouTube channel and listen to each new episode on Spotify. While this show is a labor of love and passion that isn't about the movies that I like, this is also a show that is about the films that you like. Have a film that you want to recommend to the podcast? Make sure to recommend it in the comments section on YouTube and on Spotify, and you will receive a shout out in a future episode. Want to be a guest on the podcast? Click on the sign up form link in the episode description for further details. If you like this episode or my previous episodes, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more interviews in the near future. The goal for this channel is to reach up to 100 subscribers both on YouTube and on Spotify. It's just that easy. And now, back to our regularly scheduled episode.
Right? And how did Shaman King get by all that? Like they did Shaman King. I loved Shaman King as a kid. They
Mm-hmm.
left crosses in. They
Mm-hmm.
left references to death in because it was all about ghosts. You couldn't get past it. And like
Yeah.
it was just you go back and watch Shaman King and it holds up today. Like I watched it a few years ago, the 2000, early 2000s one, and it's
Mm-hmm.
better than the version that Netflix released a couple years ago. Not as faithful to the manga, but production wise, animation, voice acting, everything about it's better than the new one. And
Yeah.
it's a 4Kids production and it's crazy. And then they have things like One Piece where it's like the voice choices are awful
Mm.
and like they cut out entire episodes. And so like they had to rework entire plot points, and if they would have had it keep going, it literally wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I usually find that's a thing I remember back in the 90s, one of the main issues I had because this was again growing up in the late 90s and 2000s, this was the era where they would bring in like Japanese shows, they would Americanize them. Do you remember the show Samurai Pizza Cast that came out in the 90s?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, I seen it. I'm not super familiar. I remember the theme song vividly, but I can't remember any episodes or anything.
yeah, so the one thing I remembered, I watched the Japanese language version, and it's very much like a whole parody of the Sentai shows and all the cliches that you would find in Sentai shows. Basically, the same points that they use in the Power Ranger show in the States. But what they did was, and I thought this was a pretty interesting fact, when they brought it over to the States, because Saban Entertainment basically was distributing this show in the States, they worked without a script. So every character, when they delivered their lines, it was totally improvised. There was no script. They had to totally improvise what they were saying on the screen, and they had to come up with whatever they said because they had no script to work with.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a similar series that's a little bit more adult, Ghost Stories, that does a similar thing, and
Hmm.
it's one of the funniest animes I've ever experienced. But it's a lot of improv without the script and just
Hmm.
voice actors messing around, and it's like it's Samurai Pizza Cats. I now that you mentioned that, I remember it. Yeah, it's very like a lot of the things are kind of out of pocket, and that I didn't
Hmm.
know it was improvised, so that makes a lot of sense.
It does, because I didn't know about this either until I guess I had to look it up, like the research and history. The Japanese version, as I said, it's a whole parody of the Sentai shows, and they're basically doing the cliches and stereotypes often found in those programs. Whereas in the dubbed version, they had no reference, so they had to go with whatever that they can put out on the fly. That was the whole thing, the gambit with Saban. But yeah, I remember that show, and you mentioned Digimon coming out in the early 2000s when they came in the States. I remember they were on Fox Kids when they came to the States, and then later they moved them to I think it was like the UPN 44, uh, which doesn't exist anymore. Now it's called CW in the States. That
Yeah.
was yeah, that's what I remembered growing up in the 2000s decade. And when I watched like the Japanese version versus maybe the Americanized version that I watched as a kid, it's like there were a lot of things that I didn't know that they heavily edited or that they had to completely change around because, as you mentioned, there were like church groups, there were religious groups, there were parental groups who were basically going against these shows and what they were promoting. But yeah, I liked these shows growing up and realizing some of the mistakes they made and some of the, as you mentioned, the casting choices that they had to put out. It's really amazing because some of the actors, when I saw like the dub version of it, it's like I know that voice or I'm familiar with that voice, but I didn't know this character was that. Like oh my God. I'll name some of these actors from the top of my head. They're from Canada. Tony Sampson, Matt Hill, Sam Vincent, Tabitha St. Germain, all those actors who later did
Woo,
like,
Canada represent.
yes, I applaud Canada very much. Um, I remembered this show called Ed, Ed and Eddie, and some of those actors who worked on that show, I did not know they did dubbing for anime shows in Canada, which I thought is amazing that I didn't make that connection as a kid.
Oh yeah, and anytime I hear Eric Stewart, the voice actor, I think Brock or Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh
It's
yeah.
one or the other. Like I hear that voice in other anime and stuff, and I instantly think either Brock or Kaiba.
Yeah. It's what a world. So, now that we've talked a little bit about 4Kids Entertainment, the infamous 4Kids Entertainment that shit up the whole anime shows of the 90s and early 2000s, uh, and also some of the voice actors that I remembered as a kid growing up watching some of these shows. I'll name a few that I remember growing up, like Hamtora when they came to the States. I didn't know some of the actors worked on Ed, Ed and Eddie, or maybe oh my gosh, there was another one I remembered. I mentioned Card Captors, I mentioned Project Arms back in the early 2000s. A lot of these shows that they used to come on Toonami back in the States on Cartoon Network, or they would be on Kids WB, or they would be on some other network that I would watch, and maybe like Disney Channel or Jetix or whatever they had in the States. So
Yeah,
now,
we had YTV and Bionics here,
mm-hmm,
so we got like only like certain things. We were so jealous of Toonami and stuff, and like
yeah,
if you had a satellite package, you could get some of that stuff here in Canada.
mm-hmm, yep,
So like there were certain kids who watched those things, but for the most part, we were pretty limited. We had Fox Kids Saturday mornings, and if
mm-hmm,
you had a good cable package, you got Kids WB. So
mm-hmm.
I used to actually go over to my neighbor's house to watch Kids
Oh
WB all
yeah.
the time.
I used to remember Kids WB would used to air all the cartoons in the late 90s and 2000s, maybe around if it was on a weekday, they would used to air them around like maybe 3 to 5 in the afternoons. And if it was on a weekend, it was from, let me see, 7 or 8 in the morning up until 12 noon. That's when the news starts, and that was the end of the cartoons. That's what I remembered back then.
Yep, or
My
sometimes baseball.
yeah. What a world. I used to I used to watch those shows, and the one thing I never mentioned this to, maybe I mentioned this to friends or relatives I knew. I used to be terrified of Power Rangers when I was a kid because at that time I didn't like the monsters or like the humor of the show when I was a kid because I was terrified of them. But when I watch them now, they're just so campy. They're so campy and they're
That's so
so
funny.
yeah.
I was obsessed with Power Rangers,
Mm-hmm.
and my younger cousin was also horrified of the creatures. And I used to force him to watch the Power Rangers Turbo movie over and
Yeah.
over again. And
Yeah.
there's like this really off off-putting puppet in that movie that
Mm.
it's not even a bad guy, and it just mortified him as a child. And I feel bad for making him sit through it because when I look back at that thing, I'm like, how was I not off-put by that creepy puppet?
Yeah, they had all these animatronics and they were all filmed and all the scenes that they added in were all filmed in California. And then by 2003 onwards, they moved to New Zealand to film all the new added scenes that were not in the Japanese version. So first it was in Los Angeles, California, then they moved to New Zealand, I guess because it was more cheaper to do it there than it was in California.
That
But
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah, it's it's
Mm,
it's crazy how much they saved money there. Like they reused footage for half the show, and
mm-hmm.
then they decide that, oh, we'll just move filming to somewhere cheaper too. It's like that show must be like so cheap to to create.
Yeah, it must be cheap. Yeah, that's one of the things. So, I do remember that. So, do you know anything like what's new in the Pokemon franchise? Because I try to watch like the new franchise, and it's no longer the same characters. It's now like a bunch of new characters and new villains. Do you notice anything new in the franchise? Maybe anything that that maybe you or your daughter noticed?
We were kind of disappointed when they got rid of Ash there. Like it definitely made sense to finally end his journey and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my daughter was kind of just really getting into Pokemon at the time.
Oh
So it was
wow.
a bit of a change. But we haven't watched it yet, but we're getting ready to watch Pokemon Horizons, the new series without him. And
Mm-hmm.
she's pretty pumped that it's a girl main character, and
Mm-hmm.
she's really into the new Pokemon like Sprigatito and stuff from the newest gen, so she's pretty excited. I'm optimistic. I'm an adult going in, so I know I'm not the target demographic, but
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen, it looks interesting. They definitely seem to be doing a little bit more stuff on the side with OVAs and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I've enjoyed a lot more. Like I think it's Pokemon Origins that was released back with X and Y, where they introduced Mega Evolution through like some shorts. And I showed my daughter that a couple years ago, and it really hooked her on wanting to try those games. And that was kind of where she like now we pretty much like every time a new game comes out, we sit down, grab each version, and play it together, trade the exclusives. The games, I'm hoping the next one is a bit more quality because
Mm-hmm.
Scarlet and Violet, as fun as they were, my daughter wasn't a huge fan of the open world, and there was a lot of graphic issues.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. It's amazing because back then I used to be a Pokemon fan and now my sister, she's still a Pokemon fan even though she's in at my age group, like I'm in my 30s right now and she is too. And I stopped watching it when I got a little bit older, but doing this episode, I it's like revisiting a memory that I hoped I wouldn't see again, but I had to do it. But you know what? It's good to revisit something that you wanted to block from your memory, and you know what? What the hell? Just do it. Just go back to doing something that you loved, something that you remembered, and as much as it was embarrassing and outdated for me growing up in that era, it was that time. It was that time where all those shows, all those movies, everybody had it, everybody was doing it, and everybody loved to get the Pokemon cards, the Digimon cards, or whatever they could churn out from Japan to the States to make everybody want whatever was popular amongst the kids in the school.
Yeah, it's crazy how Pokemon's still going strong from when we were children. Like I'm 31 and I've been on and off with the series since I guess I was 3 years old like and I my earliest memories, like I would have been 3.5, 4 when I first played Pokemon Blue.
Mm,
Old young enough that my more distinct memories are from the second generation games, Gold and Silver there. And then like Pokemon Go came out there the year my daughter was born, and
Mm,
everyone was playing it. My friends were obsessed. People who hadn't thought about Pokemon in over a decade were out just all day, every day on their phones, walking around catching Pokemon. And
mm,
like my brother who's 40 now, he's still playing Pokemon Go to this day, and like it's crazy. Like the series is going strong, and it's not just kids anymore, and
mm,
it's kind of crazy. Like it I believe Pokemon got the title of highest earning franchise in the world a couple years back, and
mm.
they've managed to hold on to it against like Star Wars and Disney and all that fun stuff. It's wild.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm an anime fan and I moved on and I still remember Pokemon and it's been a wild journey for me going to revisit this franchise and also having to watch the Horizons and its Japanese language version. I tried to find it on different websites and it's pretty amazing. Okay, so we're gonna wrap things up, and tell us a little bit about what you talk about on the podcast, and then we'll close out, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, on Fandoms, I have different guests on every week, and I basically they just chat. We chat about whatever they're a fan of, from books to films to celebrities to concepts. We got some quite a variety of topics and stuff. And I'm also working on a anime podcast that's going to be coming out in the next couple weeks here called Hey Anime, where a
Mm.
guest comes on. They recommend me an anime, kind of similar to this show, but anime focused. They recommend an anime, I check it out, and then we just sit down and shoot the shit about it. And yeah, it's fun time so far. We started with Fooly Cooley and moved on from there. And then we also have another show coming out called Fandoms Face Off, which is a spin-off of my main show where two guests compete in trivia, again, a topic that they're both a fan of. And the winner walks away with a t-shirt. And so far, everybody's had a blast. And I'm hoping that everybody listening is going to have as much fun as we did recording the ones. And yeah, we also just started doing some TikToks, card openings and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on over with Fandoms.
Okay, that sounds good. I could have talked a lot about like the seiyus. I love seiyus. I love talking about other franchises that I watched besides I could have talked about like Ikue Otani, one of my favorite seiyus, and she's now known as recognized as not just the voice of the Pikachu in in this franchise. She's also Tony Chopper in One Piece. Yeah, she's Morgana in Persona 5, the animation and the
Oh
franchise.
shit.
Yes, that's her. She's Tony Chopper. She's in Naruto. She's in Persona 5, and she's been doing a lot of other franchises that have been so well beloved. And one of my other favorites, I still read them and watch the anime show, Detective Conan, also known as Case Closed in the States.
Love it. Yeah, I was so
Yes.
sad when they stopped airing it here.
Yes. I try to keep up with it and I still have some of the manga. But yeah, I would love to talk more about my favorite seiyus, but we're gonna have to cut it short here. So where can people find you, Brody? Besides your podcast and maybe like your podcast, and where can people find you?
We're on Spotify, Apple, most podcast providers. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And yeah, if I had a lot of fun here, if you ever want to come on Fandoms and talk about something you're a fan of, I'd love to have you anytime.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could have talked all day about some of my favorite seiyus on this episode, but again, my time is I'm only limited to like 40 minutes. I wish I could have made it for an hour and talked to a whole shit about this.
No worries, man. Maybe we can do it on Fandoms.
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, thank you again so much, Brody. And this is Jordan Ramirez signing off on a really fun episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez. And Brody, thank you again for recommending this movie. And I hope that maybe people will see not just the shitty English dubbed version, but maybe the Japanese language version of this movie as well.
Yeah. Peace out, man.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, bye.